the tipping point is great for storytelling, and storytelling is great for memory. People will remember a good story. They love a good story. Good story sells.
Yep.
But the lesson to me is never in the story. The lesson is in the unheard stories, and they're very boring, and it's no one wants to hear that. You like Superman, you don't like ordinary man. Imagine unless
we're back. We've got Frank with us in the messy middle here. It is the end of August.
Captain Frank.
Captain Frank, yeah.
Skipper.
Skipper Frank. Yeah, he's Skipper right now. We just gotta make sure we don't end up on Gilligan's Island with Frank.
Your captain wants to get a job as a captain, so I could if anyone's hiring.
Yeah, but it was only supposed to be a 2-hour tour, and we ended up being friends now for 15 years almost. So
I know.
If anybody gets the Gilligan's Islands reference, maybe somebody, I don't know. Teddy, you know Gilligan's Island, right? No. So Frank, you know Gilligan's Island, right?
I do, and I wanted to watch. I haven't watched the movie about the story of a French guy who has the small person actor in it, I think, or something like that. I thought.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, that's yeah.
Which movie was that? Was that Gilligan's Island? Because Gilligan's Island was a series where they went on a boat tour, and the boat tour.
But am I mixing series? Is it the one where the guy dressed in white? I forgot. Was it another one?
I think so. I mean,
TV show from 1964. Is that?
It's a very old one.
It's a very famous TV show, and he wears a boat hat, and he dresses in red. And
no. Sorry, I'm mixing Gilligan's Island with it's
like Lost or something. So it's
no. Sorry, I'm missing with Fantasy Island.
Okay, that's totally different. That is way different. I don't remember if Fantasy Island has a boat in it.
As a captain.
Does it?
It's something I watched when I was a kid. Like, I have my memories very. But
okay,
I just saw.
Because
Fantasy Island sounds better for entrepreneurs, though.
Right. Even though Frank is American by passport, he has little context of the Gilligan's Island reference. It's very and Teddy, you get a pass because you've only been in the States.
It's super old. It's like trying to quote The Prisoner or something like that. Just no one knows what it is.
Or Scarlet Letter. I mean, did you read Scarlet Letter, Frank?
No, I watched Twilight Zone.
Oh my God! You know what, you guys like?
None of that stuff.
You come to America, you should spend some time.
I love Columbo.
You should spend some time reading the historical American fiction.
I did. Jesus, I mean, I read. I love Tom Sawyer. Read, Hemingway.
Yeah, same.
But it's funny.
But I didn't watch every TV show from the '60s. I do. I know a little bit of Gilligan's Island, but I haven't watched.
It's fine. When I first started dating Naspia, and when we started getting serious, I got her 5 books from sort of my favorite American books, like American authors.
Where's Charlie?
No. If you guys can guess, but it was Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald, right? It's cliche. It's also cliche books. Frank, of course.
Catcher in the
Rye. There you go. Yeah.
No Tom Sawyer.
No Tom Sawyer because look, I read Tom Sawyer. I think I was much younger when I read Tom Sawyer. Can we guess the other one? There's another. It's a similar vein of like a Tom Sawyer.
You got The Great Gatsby. You got Catcher in the Rye.
Or something like that. To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
There was a Portrait.
Not on the Road. No. Kerouac is very famous, but
How to Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. And then the last one was I'm forgetting something like Uptown. I think it was Upton Sinclair, The Jungle. Which I don't know why I got her that, but I was like, oh, it's labor rights in the U.S. And, maybe you're a communist at one point. So
I guess it was fine in the 19th century after that. Not really.
Yeah. I didn't get her anything from the early 2000s or whatever because, like, let's I wanted to show her, like...
Tom Clancy. To be cool, that's the perfect gift for
Harry Potter. No, but most of the contemporary books No, I know, but what I'm saying is obviously it's not American, but I'm thinking from like the contemporary books that became really big in the States over the last 20 years, they're also big in Russia. So and probably big
Hmm,
in France and
true.
Macedonia. So it's not like it's just more of like the American like what you learn in the schools here. And what's it and why this relates to the messy middle is interesting is it doesn't. Um, so what do we got? What do we want to talk about? It's like the end of summer. September's coming around. We've got,
Yep.
the next couple of months of the year to finish off sort of the goals that we're facing. Like, we are only a few months away also from a year of doing the podcast, too.
Yeah, to me, it kind of makes me think. I don't know if that's something you guys want to talk about, but timing. Everything to me is always slower than I think. I'm always overly, I'm good at prediction, but I always think that things are going to go way faster. And so, like, the same, I look at my startup, I look at Electis, like, everything is doing well, but the speed at which things goes well goes slower, which kind of taps into the theme of perseverance. And I think it's the same now, it's like whatever you're going to be working on, like to get out of that messy middle, it's not going to be, I'm in a messy middle and I'm out of it. That's going to be like this very, 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 very slow curve. And you have to keep working and keep working, until at one point you look back and like, oh, cool, I'm out of it. But I don't feel it's going to be like a binary thing where you're like, oh, I was in the messy middle yesterday and I'm out of it the next day. It's a slow takeoff. And so,
And
the same as like preparing September, like things are going to come really fast. So the time goes fast: August, September, December, boom, January. But the amount of cumulative work you will do, it's still going to take a lot of time, a lot of capital.
I think you're
Like,
right. But, oh, Teddy, you go, Teddy. Sorry.
no, you are right. You are definitely. I think it's just like summer feeling that things are moving slow. I think they're not. It's just good time to focus and work. That's how I feel these days.
Mhm.
It feels slow, but it's actually good type of slow.
Yeah, it's
You were
slow
on,
It's
but
not
moving.
gonna.
you were
It's
on
slow with
vacation
momentum.
though,
Yeah,
Teddy. You're on the
Yeah.
lake. You're on the
Yeah.
lake, and Frank was sailing. So none of us were really working, and I was painting the house here.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
But
we actually gave ourselves a real break for a few
yeah.
days,
I,
like 10
I mean,
days.
yeah.
Well,
I was
sort
working on
of.
something else. I always work, but
Yeah.
Okay, it's always work. What I'm saying, it's not financially
yeah.
productive work that we did over the last 10 days, but it will
No,
add
no, no, no.
into.
No, I agree. And at least I feel good. I mean, we'll talk more, I guess, but I feel good. Like even tiny momentum and a direction is enough. That's all you need: the direction and the momentum.
Hmm
Momentum
I,
without direction is not good because you're like, I'm doing that, but what for and to go where? And direction without momentum is not good because you're like, you kind of after a while you're like, it's not moving. Is it dead? And so tiny momentum and tiny direction, I think, is the way to go.
and I
It's like
think
the marathon starting.
right, and I agree and I disagree on the timing point. Everything obviously takes longer. Agreed. So, but there's a tipping point where things, it's not that they take longer or almost in a way like time sort of disappears from a scenario. There's a point where things start to happen and it's
Yeah,
not based on time. It's either based on
but it's
experience doing it in the
yeah, but
past
I don't think there's
or
tipping points. That's the other thing. I think you have to make a tipping point. I'm gonna give an example we've been through, right? Which is you raise money. And so raising money takes a long time or longer time or whatever it
right
may be.
for
Unless you're
you.
so yeah, exactly. But for you it's gonna be 2 months and you'll have tons of cash. But the but even then, it takes a lot of time. And by the time you raise money, you're exhausted. Like you're not even excited the day you get the check because you know that, you need to
Oh, it's work.
deploy capital, you need to do all those things. And then at one point, like shit, like we didn't do any PR, we didn't communicate on anything. And you kind of have to do that. And so to the outside world, it looks like, oh my God, like, there's like the tipping point just happened. But I mean, personally, I don't necessarily feel it. It's just, it's like
One
you have to make
large
it, you
slow
have to make,
journey.
you have to make fake tipping points, for the world to see it. But I guess tipping point happens on a product level when you got the product market fit, which is whatever, one day you wake up and you have like, 10,000% growth. This is real. I think product market fit is real. But by the time you have something like that, you don't even have time neither to celebrate, and it's just
No,
so
it's just a
product
rocket.
tipping point works. But again, to get to that product tipping point, you have to walk the valley of slow growth.
Yeah, I think if we look at it contextually from the messy middle, there is a tipping point. And I think you're right. You have to manufacture the tipping point because the decision is the decision should be up to you. If you end up leaving the decision up to someone else, then there will be a decision made, but it's not yours. I kind of relate that to. I was doing my first startup, and I knew I'd have to leave or get fired, but I didn't know how to leave, or I didn't want to leave soon enough, and then I got fired. And by fired, they're like, "Look, you just can't be here anymore." But I got to keep my shares, and I made
Yeah,
a bunch of
that's
money
how
off of
you
it.
hire people.
No, I know, but it wasn't like
It's not
it wasn't
firing. It's
like
not like a job. It's a co-founder.
as a co-founder. Yeah, they were just like, "Look, you can't come into the
happens.
office
It's like
anymore.
very common. Extremely common.
Yeah, you can't come into the office anymore. We don't really have anything to do for you."
Yeah.
And I remember that vividly. I was like, well, I told myself either I'm going to leave or they're going to make a decision for me to leave. And I think that's kind of the scenario in a lot of things in life. And if you're in the messy middle and you haven't made that decision of what you're going to do, the decision is going to be made for you at some point.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't think that's the right way to do it. Now, Frank, I want you to have a counter argument to that, though.
No, I don't. I mean, I think to me, when I think about tipping point, I mean about like things that really change. But they are tipping decisions. Maybe is a better way to think of it, where you have choice A or choice B, or and then you really make these things. After you make the choice, nothing will change. That's what I mean. It's like the fruit of a decision will again take time and compound and all of that. I guess a good example would be an investment, right? Like you buy an Nvidia stock, nothing will happen, but or some Bitcoin, but if you sit on it for 5, 6 years, then the tipping point was indeed the day you bought that thing. But the fruits of it.
That's my question. What's the point of the tipping point if that's like decision made in the past and you're just reaping the benefits right now? Or
well, you made
is it PR thing only for like you raise this round and now that's the tipping point? But it's decisions from the past.
I think the human brain likes that. The human brain, I guess,
milestones
can digest A/B and be like, here's the 3 tips to be successful, and here's I'm doing that, and everything's gonna be better. Or vote for me, and and we'll do A, and everything will be solved. It's just I feel like it's easier to digest as an information.
So you shouldn't be looking at the final outcome, but you should be looking at the decisions made that led you to that outcome.
Well, the final outcome is we're all going to die. So
yeah, true. No, it's an important truth.
So I think you could look at the final outcome, but I think you should look at the decisions you've made to get to that outcome.
Yeah.
But there is.
But it's useless. It's useless anyway, right? It's like once you know the decision that led to the outcome, it's too late. You already taken the decision, and you already know the outcome. And once you make the decision, you have no idea what the outcome will be. So it's contemplative, and usually the people who come on stage.
Based on the outcome, you can because you said the tipping point. It's important for people to identify the decisions, the good things that they did, and I don't know, 3 things how to be successful. But it's not the outcomes; it's the decisions they made before, and you can tell that in retrospect. You can be like, this decision led to this outcome.
There's so many variables that come into play that it's never going to be the same.
You might even lie to yourself about the story, and it's
exactly. But it's easier. It's way more accurate to base your tips on the decisions you made than the outcome, because it's very abstract if you just talk about the outcome. And
but the tips are useless again. Like I still believe it's luck. I think we go back. We go back.
Tips are useless.
No, you could.
Of course they are.
They are. The story it's memorable. You will share stories, but the true useful thing is into failure. And it's like
the useful thing is what, Frank? Repeat, because
failures into the
talking because you haven't been on the podcast.
We talked about it. We talked about it before. It's always thing that leads to failure, and there's no one who talks about that, and it's maybe not something that you analyze more. But you know, the whole analogy, the analogy to World War II, and you know, you look at bombers, planes coming back, and the one who
Yes.
survives, or
Survivor
not the one more
survives, yeah.
interesting, it's the one who didn't come back that are interesting. And so the tipping point is great for storytelling, and storytelling is great for memory. People will remember a good story, they love a good story. Good story sells.
Yep.
But the lesson to me is never in the story. The lesson is in the unheard stories, and they're very boring, and it's you know, no one wants to hear that. You know, you like Superman, you don't like Ordinary Man. Imagine unless you're Seinfeld and somehow you make it like a show, but it's like,
but even then,
can you imagine
Seinfeld,
like a comic book named Ordinary Entrepreneur? Hi, I'm Ordinary Entrepreneur. This is my boring
even
story.
Seinfeld
coffee
wasn't.
code.
Even Seinfeld wasn't a
Ordinary. I know, no, it's fake. Yeah.
Seinfeld was a comedian already traveling, performing.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But Costanza.
Anyway, you got my analogy, right? No one wants a boring book. No, like people like drama. People like up and down. Yeah.
I mean,
but it's interesting. Why do our brain optimize for that? We could think about it for a second. Like why do our brains like stories? Why do they like a simple breakdown and simple decision instead of
because we grew up in caves. Like
it's just simple chemical reactions that they like, trigger, and like whatever dopamine, it makes you
I'm
feel
thinking about this afternoon.
thrill and
I'm like, okay, we've got this podcast going. I gotta go to the mall. I'm like, oh, I'm excited. I get to go look at a tie, and I get to go to happy hour and save $3 on these tacos. And like for me, that's like I'm like, whoa, $3. Right? I probably could have made like $3,000 if I didn't take time off to go.
But that could be a funny outcome of growing up with, you know, dopamine addiction and like 5 seconds videos, because you'll believe and you'll want to make your life a 5-second decision that's going to bring you millions of dollars. And that's going to be a lot of disappointment.
Well, there already is. I mean, look at everybody who grew up generationally. Everybody from, I would say, from our generation, a lot of it is they wanted to be models, musicians, actors. That was kind of the thing prior to, you know, the entrepreneur scene.
I wanted to be a physicist and a volcanologist. I failed.
I know. Teddy, what did you want to be growing up?
I have no idea. Like computer scientist, whatever, something.
Oh, really?
Technology.
Come on. What did
I
you
wanted to build things. I really wanted to build things, like an architect.
You want to be an architect?
Yeah. But not like physical things, building blocks, stuff. I don't know, something like that.
Okay.
That was funny. Did you watch the Peter Thiel thing where was it him, or I forgot when they said that computer science is not a real science? That made me happy because it's so
with
true.
Joe Rogan. I watched that.
It's so true. It's not a science. But nothing is besides just physics, and math.
I wanted to be a businessman when I grew up. I wanted, but then it's
so cliche.
It was between either a businessman or I wanted to be
a rock star.
So actually, hold on. That's a good example.
How did you know I was a rock star? Yeah.
What were your tipping points?
What were my tipping points? Or like who tipped
being
me?
where you are today as a businessman?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it wasn't a tipping point. It was a process, and
it was a process.
Suddenly you realize you're on the other side of whatever tipping point.
It was when I first wore the Donald Trump hairstyle and red tie and a yellow shirt when I was 5 years old. I don't know. But I actually looked at that photo from my preschool class, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, I definitely look like a '90s businessman, and I had a money tie on as well in one of the other shirts, and I was like, "Do you think people growing up in Iceland or Estonia have the money ties when they're kids in preschool?"
Maybe.
No.
There's always outliers, and entrepreneurs are like this fun bunch of weird people.
There's a photo as well that I need to find from my middle school class where it looks like I'm giving like a TED talk in front of the class. It's like me in front of the computer. I'm like, look, this is how, and they're all like listening in.
But there are no tipping point. There's not like a teacher or or a moment.
No, there is. I mean,
they are for sure. Yeah,
of course. I did the Lego Mindstorms Club in middle school, and I raised like $200. I was a nerd. But why I liked the Lego Mindstorms Club is I had access to the computer lab after hours, so we could watch all the comedy videos online, E-Bombs World, and like play video games while we were building the Lego stuff, and then I realized that's how I could build a community.
What video games? I'm curious. What was that at that
Like
time?
video games, I don't remember. I don't think Counter-Strike. I think it was
Oh,
that would be 2000. I was in middle school in 2003.
Yeah, that's around Counter-Strike
Yeah.
times.
So it's probably like Counter-Strike, but a lot of it was like probably just mostly Red Alert or like Red Alert-esque.
oh, nice.
Total Annihilation I played a
Oh,
lot of.
I love Total Annihilation.
Love
It's
You guys
great.
played Age of Empires?
I never played Age of Empires.
I love that
No,
game.
Total Annihilation was great. I remember you
Amazing.
had
Total Annihilation's amazing.
500 different kind of units. This is gigantic.
Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto, definitely. So, I mean, like the defining moment of video games for me in high school was absolutely Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Vice City, excuse me, Vice City. What year did that come out? Was that 2004? 2005?
Maybe.
5, maybe.
Yeah.
5, I
Like
think.
I remember it came out and I just remember being like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and play this for an hour. And like the next day the sun's rising and I'm like,
Nice.
I think I just played it all night. And then the other tipping point was when I did the radio station in high school and 4 right? And raised, ton of money and did the Kanye concert. But like all of those were leading up to like being like, okay, I actually could do this stuff. But the funny thing is like then you kind of regress, and once you get into the world and the world throws things at you, you're like, oh, I'm not that good. Maybe I never really ever did that stuff. You go like, maybe it was just luck, and I'm never.
No, but it's funny because I think Elon is a little bit of the same, and I feel like I'm a little bit of the same on you too. Which is to me, it's because of video games. And I started coding when I was 5 just so I could play games, and then everything after that was just games. And I wanted to code my own games, develop my own games, do my own game.
Which was your first game?
Yeah, I've been Pong.
Yeah.
Pong. Yeah, we had a Pong console. Tennis also. There's 2 Pongs.
Oh, yeah, tennis. Yeah.
It's double Pong, and and then after that there was I don't know how to translate that, but it was the search of a lost ruby, and it was like kind of an adventure game.
Like a Carmen San
like
Diego
Zork, like some no, like text based or tiny graphics. Like was like 16 colors. And things like that, and Zork. Sorry,
Teddy, what was your first game that you played?
It was Pac-Man. It was Pac-Man, and it's funny because it's probably the same with most of the people I know that are into entrepreneurship or software engineers. They started with gaming. Games. Yeah. And then at one point you either want to play more games or you want to create your own game, and that's how you go. And if you like develop in a software development sort of direction, you either want to build a game or operating system. It's the next step, and that's how you progress there. But games for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I still game a lot. To me, it's kind of cool. Like I feel good that I'll grow up, very old and still play video games. No doubt about that. It's gonna be awesome.
Oh yeah.
I love games so much.
I don't play games anymore. Not because I'm just afraid that I'm going to get addicted. So I play one game, which is Uncharted. And the next time the next Uncharted comes out, I love Uncharted.
Was really good. Yeah.
And I remember it came out when Gamma started. And I was like, okay, we're going to buy the PS4 or PS3. No, it's probably PS4. It's PS4. PS4. And I bought Uncharted from Costco. And I played it straight, and I finished it.
It's a quick game, so that was okay. It didn't derail. Like you can play it in one day.
No, but it is weird running a video game startup, and you're like, I can have access to all the best games in the world. I can get everything, but I don't want to play any of them. So,
I guess it's but to me, maybe it's why we talk about that. But I always associated summer with games and friends. It's like
childhood.
Yeah, exactly. It's the memory of childhood.
Teddy had to go tend to the fields.
Really? No,
he didn't. Did you have to go to the farm and like? No. Nastia did. Nastia. She had.
There wasn't. There was. I was lucky because my mother was doing like accounting, and we had a PC locally, and then I had the computer from a very young age. But then there wasn't any like a store in the town where you could buy other games, so we would go to Skopje, to the capital, and for like
you
big
see, to my
fair, and then
point,
you buy stuff.
we're trying to reflect on this tipping point that leads to entrepreneurship, and I'm sure it's somehow video games, but it's not like one video game or one day or something like that. It's just gonna set me to the path of computers.
Yeah, you're
And
sort of set on a path, and then but like what happens? You start doing it for the game, for the
yeah,
either to learn how to build them or play them, and then
yeah.
eventually you end up doing something else, and you kind of forget the whole journey or the first reason why you started.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I would do it today, but back in the day, you had to know how to write them to run them.
Yeah.
And
True.
so today I'm not sure if people like video games that end up developers or anything, because you don't have to.
Well, there's just a more diverse opportunity of things that you can do if you play video games today. You could be an influencer.
You can become a professional video game player. That would have been my dream job.
A professional video game player. Yeah,
player.
yeah.
Of course.
I would have been esports champion or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I did Gamma, Dennis Fong, who's in his 40s, he was like the first esports winner. He won the Doom Cup and got what's his name's Ferrari. Who's the guy who created Doom? Why can't I remember his name? I'm getting old.
Oh, Carmack.
You got Carmack's Ferrari. So Dennis would always tell us really cool stories about it. So I remember my first video game was definitely Duck Hunt on NES. And
I remember that.
And then after Duck Hunt was obviously Mario Brothers.
Duck Hunt, and you had the robot sometimes. We'll see if you're
the robot too. Yeah,
if you're rich enough, you had the little robot.
Yeah, I don't think we had the robot. Maybe my friends down the street, like, because my parents are kind of cheap too. But my favorite two video game systems of all time favorites, SNES, and it's going to be a weird one. It's going to be, obviously N64, but I loved the Dreamcast, Sony.
It's a weird one indeed.
It's a weird one. I'm a weirdo, but I loved it because it had like
No, I get it.
I mean, it had so much technology in it, and they just screwed it up.
Yeah, my favorite one was and no one will know this one, I guess, unless you really like video games, was the PC Engine GT. And that was a portable PC Engine, which was a Japanese 16-bit console. So it was like a portable Super NES at the time of the Game Boy. And that thing was like amazing. But thinking now, like, I'm thinking about video games now. Actually, I'm excited to play. I want to play a new game that came out like a few days ago. And it's a Chinese game. And it's #1 on Steam right now. And I'm like, there was this guy, French intellectual, doesn't matter, but he wrote a book way back, and I like his book. His book was to say that you can predict society by looking at what music is being played, what music is being created, and you can analyze, from the Renaissance to the 18th, 19th, 20th century. And so you see, from musique de chambre with few people, and then the democratization, and all of that happens before democracy. But part of me wonder if the same effect would happen with video games. What are the video games that are trendy right now? What do they tell us about society? And right now, if anything, it tells us that Asia is coming. And you hear also Asian music more and more. But I don't know. I like I think we're entering talking about tipping point.
I'm only laughing because I didn't expect you were going to say Asia is coming. All of Asia? You mean like every single country? Or just China?
I mean the region. Again, talking about tipping point, maybe it's hard to see right now because there's a lot of
video games have always, but then in theory,
beside
Sega,
the video games, what I mean is right now. Yeah, you're right. Sega, Nintendo, all of that were always there.
Mostly always Japanese, the Capcom stuff that I played in arcades.
Yeah, but remember at that time, Japan was leading.
And Tencent owns all the big video games in the US.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's owned by China, by Dance.
No, you're right. But it was Japan. It wasn't China. And
historically, no, it was Japan. You're right.
And now you had after that you have South Korea. Sorry, for the mobile game. North Korea for the West game.
North Korean games. They'd be like, "Oh yes, let's play," and they'd be like, "Wait, you gotta pretend there's a video game there. Like it's not really a real game."
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, yeah.
But
I'll
to me again, like I feel like I just want to finish my sentence, which is I believe we're in the tipping point. Could be wrong, and everybody sees it, but it's like again, it's like a 20 years tipping point. But I think we're at the beginning of the era, the Asian era of the next 200, 300 years. I guess it's like that's kind of what it is going to look like. And Europe, you can see the center of gravity moving away from Europe really fast, and
Oh,
the
absolutely,
US will be
yeah.
okay, but Europe is like
Europe's
and yeah.
it's going. It's going. It's
So again,
interesting.
like tipping
So
points.
we discussed tipping points today. That was
Yeah.
we didn't expect this. Frank,
TP.
you've got a quote for us.
I do.
Skipper
I do if I
Frank.
can.
Skipper Frank.
Skipper Frank.
Quote of the day.
Yeah.
Quote of the week.
I know people hate her, but I do like her. So it's a quote I found by Margaret Thatcher, and I think it's from an old poem, which says, "The ship sails east, the ship sails west. Whatever the wind blows, 'tis the set of a sail and not the gale that determines the way she goes." And what it means is whether the wind, of life is pushing you. It's not the wind of life that matters. It's your sailboat. It's the sails. It's your, it's whatever direction you choose to pick. And the rest is something you have to deal with, but it's not something that drives you. I like that quote.
You're the captain of your ship.
Yeah. After that, we can reopen the debate to free will, but let's at least you have illusion. You're the captain of your boat, which is good.
Till next week.
Yes.
Bye.
We will see you guys soon.